Hi, I'm Devin. Thanks for visiting my site. If you're watching this video, then I'm guessing you're interested in my body wisdom coaching service. So I'm going to try to describe to you what it is. So I'll start with what's the goal. So when I work with a client, I try to teach them and work with them to help them relate to their body-mind differently. Quite often in the West, we're trained to mistrust our body, to shut it down, to ignore it, to call ourselves irrational. Instead of this, I use a variety of mindfulness techniques, of dialoguing techniques, of somatic techniques to help the client come into better relation with their entire being, their physical sensations, their emotions, their thoughts, and to start using this as information around what they need and who they are. And usually when I work with clients, as they develop softer, more trusting, more warm relationships with themselves, they find that they have real wisdom in terms of what kind of life would be good for them. And I have a natural belief that everyone's life has an easy center of gravity, in the sense that there are kind of ways of being or paths of pursuing that have a gravitational pull with every person. And somewhere in us we have that wisdom around kind of like what our center of gravity is, what our gravitational pull is. And the more we can tune in and listen to ourselves, the more access we have to that wisdom, and the more we can free ourselves up to kind of move with that natural flow of our life. So at the end result of working with my clients, I hope that we find that kind of flow and we move them in the direction of that flow. And kind of incidentally, usually that means they live happier, more embodied, more rich lives, but it's not necessarily the goal. The goal is the process, the goal is the relationship with themselves. So what's the theory behind this? I used to be a somatic therapist. I fundamentally believe in mind-body connection. I kind of think they're all one thing. So I pull a lot from Buddhism and yoga, and I kind of merge subtle anatomy and Western anatomy to come to this conceptualization of the human body as multi-layered, but all working together. And at the most subtle layer, the more spiritual layers, I believe we hold that wisdom. We hold that guidepost for where we're moving. We hold our core values, the crux of who we are that will stay against anything else, that feels a little unshakable, that was always there when we were a child, when we were more fearless. That subtle level of us, it exists. And we might not be able to explain that piece of us in Western anatomy yet, but it's somewhere. And then we have all the other layers that are coming into human form and trying to make sense and live in this reality. And when we look at mind-body connection, no matter what we're looking at, if we're looking at the nervous system, the energy body, the musculature, our cognitions, our feelings and emotional body, every single thing in those other layers of the body are designed to adapt to the life we are living in response to environment. So how we are living, the environment that we in, our body designs to live in it, to sustain it, to understand the world as we're living in it. And as we do that, the body has all these ways of speaking into itself, through physical pain, through movement, through holding patterns, through cognition, through feelings, and all these things are coming to help us navigate the way that we are living now and to help us survive. Because we've got this bifurcated experience of maybe having the spiritual piece of us, but we also have this very human experience of just trying to keep this physical body alive doing what we're doing. And from this anatomical perspective, I really believe that we only change by first allowing everything exactly as it is. So my goal with any client is to help them just witness themselves, to see themselves and to come into contact with all these areas and types of wisdom that are working to take space, that are working to move us in certain directions, maybe just below our awareness. Because once we start witnessing it and making friendly with it, then we start to find this version of ourselves that governs it, that sees the wisdom in all of it and makes choices and is coming in and not just obeying the loudest one or acting responsibly. So when I'm in a session, I'm always like pulling from these disparate ways of perceiving who a human is. And I'm working with the client to see themselves in this kind of anatomical way, this way of having multi-tiered wisdom, of multiple ways of listening to ourselves, of multiple ways of speaking to ourselves. And so while I'm working with them, I pull from all sorts of things. So one thing I do is mindfulness. And so mindfulness is any kind of present moment, non-judgmental, focused attention. And most of my sessions, I'm in some kind of shared mindful space with my clients because we're always trying to tune into the present moment, and a lot of the time we're trying to track what's going on in their body. We're listening to the emotions, we're making space for them to speak, we're watching the physical sensations, we're not fighting them. So pretty much my entire session, I'm in mindfulness, but sometimes I will move into meditation, because meditation has been used for thousands of years to develop very specific skills of self-relation. So if I think the client's self-self relationship could benefit from an infusion of compassion, we will actively try to develop self-compassion through meditation together. Or if I think equanimity needs to be pulled on, or empathy, there are beautiful meditations that actually develop these skills that then give us a new way of relating to ourselves. I also pull from somatic exercises to help the client see that they can change the way the body is holding itself while these things are being talked, to move into more regulation, to have more space. And my primary one is breathwork. Breathwork really governs our nervous system, but it also kind of governs our overall health. So I spend usually at least 5 minutes every session helping a client to see where their current state of regulation is and using breathwork to create more space for the use of mindfulness and tracking. I also use conscious movement. Our body always has holdings. We have myofascial restrictions, we have energy cysts, we have things that are struggling to move because they're held, and the body knows how it wants to be moved. So quite often when I'm with clients, I'll ask, is there any movement your body wants to make? And it's often very subtle. If I have a restriction right here, I might slowly start to move my shoulder and unwind that fascia, but that wisdom is already in the client. And so we'll use that wisdom strategically to have them start moving. I'll also use self-touch and acupressure. So self-touch is great because if we are touching ourselves, it's like getting a hug. It releases the body's natural oxytocin, the love chemical. We can use it to soothe ourselves. And acupressure points, whether or not I'm touching them or the client, they all have spiritual, mental, physical, and emotional impacts on the body. So if I'm working with a client and I think they need a little bit of help on their anxiety, maybe I'll have them hit the center of the palm. There are all these beautiful points that help short circuit some of the more frenetic energy of the fight in our body so that we can create a more spacious conversation. In the background, I'm usually doing some level of energy healing and release. And this is partly self-care because I'm always trying to join the tracking, feel what the client is feeling, visualize what the client is visualizing. And often I end up in this very shared space where things are moving through me. And so I'm going to always be releasing any kind of pent-up energy as I'm moving, in part because I need to do it so I don't catch anything moving as I'm doing this with clients. But this is also part of creating the space. And when we're not in mindfulness, even when we are, I'm always doing dialoguing and tracking. So I'm witnessing the client and I'm saying back what I'm seeing, and I'm asking questions that I've learned from a variety of ways. So if we're like tracking this certain postural holding, maybe we'll move in and move out and see how we're feeling inside of it, and then ask, how old was I when I first went in this posture, and what does it do? And why might it think I'm protecting me? It's this very expansive, open-ended way of talking about it. And usually at the end of the session, if we are in that period where we are moving into action, we do behavioral planning. I have a health and wellness coaching license. I trained a lot in how to move our thoughts into behavior. So if we are at that stage of work at the end, we will try to actually start moving into behavior between sessions. You might be asking, how is it not therapy? Or is this knockoff therapy? And this is a really fair question, because before I trained in psychotherapy, I would have equated them. But I trained in psychotherapy, and legally, what actually makes psychotherapy is that you are diagnosing a client as ill, and you are making a treatment plan to work against that diagnosis, to work against what you are defining as maladaptive. And I left psychotherapy, and you can read about it on my blog, for a lot of reasons, but one of them was I just refused to work with clients from this foundation. I think clients are coming in fully whole, and that is the basis of my work. So in terms of like what you're doing in the room, a lot of what I'm doing is quite similar to what a therapist might be doing, because we're talking through things, we're making plans, we're doing this. But the defining trait of psychotherapy is the diagnosis and the consideration of you as maladaptive. And I refuse to work from that, even if I am licensed to do it. And so that is what makes this different than psychotherapy, is that we will never look at you as if you are wrong. We will always just be looking for the wisdom in you and start moving towards that wisdom. Well, if you are interested in doing this, schedule one of the intake calls. I keep a few days a week free for intakes. Trying not to schedule over that period. Or if you're interested in me as a person who thinks, you can subscribe at the bottom of my page to a newsletter. It doesn't go out very often, but if you want to know what I'm writing or what meditations I'm posting, that's the best way. You can follow me on social media. And if you want to move to one of the meditations or the blog, you can see my work. But I so appreciate you taking this time. And if you choose to work with me, I am looking forward to it. Sending warm regard and kind wishes.